Hello everyone and welcome to this session on useful pandas methods. Today we will be looking at the pandas explode method. We will start off by looking at the documentation here. So the pandas explode method is applied directly on a pandas data frame, and what it does is it is used to transform lists or maybe other iterable objects within one particular data frame column into their own separate rows. How do we use this? Let's say you have data where one of the columns contains a list, or maybe more columns contain lists or iterables, and you want to explode or separate out each list element into its own row such that the other column data remains the same. Then in such a case you would probably end up using pandas.explode method. Let's take a look at an example. So we have here an example with pandas imported. This is an example for an article and its related tags. Let's see how the data frame looks like. So we have 3 rows, each with one article, and a column called tags containing rows which contain multiple tags as elements. Now, how would you separate out these tags into their own rows while keeping the article association in the title column the same? Well, you would basically say df dot explode followed by the column name. That is, we want the tags column to be split up, and what you get is separate rows for each of the tags such that the association with the values in the title column, that is the articles, remain the same. So you can see here that article 1 is associated with Python, data science and machine learning, and the same is carried forward here such that each of the tags is in their own individual row, right? You can also do this for separate two different columns both at the same time. Let's take another example. Here we have a e-commerce data set where we have multiple products and their features or properties. Let's take a look at how the data frame looks like. Right. So we have multiple lists in multiple columns. So products has its own set of lists, features has its own set of lists. How do you explode all of these into individual rows of their own? You say df dot explode followed by open braces and then a list that contains the two column names. So you want to explode product or products, and you also want to explode features. And you'll see that each of these is split into its own separate rows. Now from our documentation you'll see that there's a parameter called ignore index which is set to a default value of false. What does ignore index do? Well, you'll see from our earlier example that the indices are also duplicated across the rows. But what if you do not want them to be duplicated and you want sequential indices? In those cases, what you will do is you will use the explode method as usual. Let's try this example again. So it is products comma features are the two columns that we want to explode. We also wanted to ignore index, so we'll set ignore index to true and run the code. Now here you will see the difference, that is all the indices are all in their own separate numbers. That's it for today. Thank you for joining.